filled it right up.
We sure
How good.
did. No surprises. It's you guys that they're listening to.
I think Dan said he's going to sign autographs after this, so maybe that's why there's so many people here.
I just think everyone's incredibly hungover. I'm surprised there's not more people at the back sleeping or something.
I'm surprised there's anyone in here after what I saw at 3 a.m. in level 19. Oh dear. All right. When we sat down to talk about this, I had to say to you guys that I actually know fuck all about what we're talking about today. This is not my strong suit. This is not my expertise, so I'm really looking forward to learning from the three of you about this. So for those of us who've trickled in or we're not quite sure what we're talking about today, the title of this is Brands Don't Get Clicked Anymore, They Get Chosen. We're going to win trust and visibility through AI-led discovery. We really talked about some key themes of, AI in content creation, like rules around that, what does that mean? What does that do? Does that create risk for the business? How has that changed KPIs? And, what does that mean in the reality routine? So that's what we're going to go through today. So to kick us off, maybe I can get you to each introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do. Let's start with you, Sam.
I'm Sam Ayre. I'm from Cuttable. We're a Melbourne-based company. We launched in July. We are an AI creative production platform. We work with about 250 brands across Australia, New Zealand, and the US. We're a pretty small team, growing pretty quick, but we are trying to be at the forefront of kind of AI and meta advertising in Australia and hopefully the US as we continue to grow. It's a really exciting space. We're learning a lot as a company, and we get to work with some just incredible D2C brands every day. So it's a really fun space.
Nice.
Hi, everyone. I'm Destiny. I'm the head of SEO at Princess Polly. If you guys haven't heard of Princess Polly, we are a Gen Z women's fashion brand. Really big in Australia, but very big in America. So we're kind of global everywhere. And if you've been on TikTok recently, you've definitely seen us. So,
I'm Dan, Chief Customer Officer at Boody, world's most comfortable underwear. Is anyone wearing Boody in the crowd by chance? Up the back, excellent. Down the front, love to see it. Come and see me after, I'll give you some free stuff. Been down there about 2 years. Prior to that, I was on the Gold Coast and did the normal rotation of Gold Coast e-com brands, being Surf Stitch, Billabong, Culture Kings, Crop Shop Boutique, LSKD. So kind of went right around and then relocated the family down to Sydney about 2 years ago to take the Boody opportunity.
Else.
Exactly. They wouldn't hire me at Princess Polly, so I had to go to Sydney.
Amazing. So we're going to talk about use cases, benefits, pitfalls in your learned experiences in your own businesses. Let's get started with a contrarian belief. This is from Sam, and we absolutely love this. I want to hear a contrarian belief you hold about AI and creative right now.
I think the big thing is that it kind of wrecks your brand. There's this kind of perception that AI can go and destroy your brand, and it can. I'm not sure if anyone's walked past the booth we've got in the expo hall. We've got this massive sign up there that says like "We hate AI slop," which kind of sounds bizarre coming from an AI creative production company. But I think the space is moving so fast, and it can also do so many different things. A big reason why we started is we cut up a brand's existing images and video. And I think, of course, if you don't put any guardrails around things, it can absolutely kind of go to town on your brand. But I think the big thing is that AI and brand quality can't go together. I think that's a myth that a lot of people that we've spoken to over the past 2 days, a lot of brands are starting to dispel themselves as they play with more tools and experiment with more in the space. So, yeah, that's probably the big one.
oh, for me, contrarian for AI. Yeah, I agree that all AI creatives are AI slop. It's meant to be contrarian, but we're agreeing here, so doubling.
I don't think I said all. Did I say all? Did I say all?
there is AI slop out there. However, I have definitely fallen victim to AI videos thinking that there is actually a cat climbing the Eiffel Tower. I should probably know better, but it just shows that AI is coming a long way. So there are some really impressive creatives coming out there. And secondly, I don't think AI is going to replace as many jobs as people are assuming. Sorry if that was yours, Dan, but I'll let you speak on that a bit more.
Yeah, look, I think there's two ways to look at it. It's going to save you money, and then you reinvest that money in a really customer-facing way. So an example would be if we use an AI model, we don't have to pay a model $5,500 to look great in the photo studio for the day. What can we do with that $5,500 to drive value for our customer? So think if a business is really open and transparent about what that strategy is, then they will maybe face less backlash. Then I think the perception at the moment is, Atlassian firing people, Meta firing people, that AI just equals people losing jobs. So I think combating the right way is what I'm most excited to understand more myself.
So we talk about this from AI and creative, and then we kind of, the next maybe layer to that, or the next piece of the puzzle that starts to tack on is SEO and how much that's changing. We had Shopify release data this year, only a couple of weeks ago, that 38% of Australian consumers are using AI to shop, whether that's in their search or not. We're seeing them search in this new way. It's not going onto Google. We saw search change many years ago when people started searching on Instagram and then on TikTok, and now we're using AI to search. What have you seen as a change in your business, and has anything stayed the same? Or Sam, like your clients, are they seeing those changes?
Yeah, I think in a big way. To be honest, I can talk about even from our business point of view. Like we get, I think maybe even 6 months ago, we were probably 1% of the customer inquiries came from an LLM. Like we could see that in the data. It's now up to like almost 5% coming through from an LLM. And I think it's been a conscious thing that we've thought about as a business, and around like how do we show up to make sure we are discoverable as well. We've put a lot of time into Reddit, into PR as well, to make sure that we're getting great rankings. And I think a big part of that is being able to, as a solo marketer working at a business, being able to use AI to kind of do a lot of work that I haven't been able to kind of get to before. And so I think it's probably around understanding what gets you ranked from an LM point of view, and then having a proper strategy. It's not just going to happen, on its own. I think that's a big one.
It's a really short period of time, between those two things and that data change that you've seen. Is something that surprised you, that it's changed so fast?
No, I don't think it surprised me. It's probably just, look, I mean, the rate of change is incredible. It feels like you wake up and you open like LinkedIn, or you open whatever platform you're on, and there's another big announcement that feels like it's going to flip your business upside down, and you're behind, and it kind of it constantly feels like that. So I think that change is just going to be inevitable, and it's kind of just around, you're not behind, you're kind of right where you need to be, and just kind of keep going on that.
Yeah, we've definitely. Is anyone else here use Tripwire at all by chance? One of the options in post-purchase survey, we've added like chat as one of the options to say like what led you here today, and that has more than tripled for us in the last 6 months. So the amount of people that are discovering us there. But I think it depends how much your product ladders up to having like a problem solution benefit. I think people are going to use chat more when they're trying to research a thing. I can't imagine people using chat that much to say, find me the perfect little black dress for Friday night to impress Tom. But if they're saying,
How did you know my husband's name is Tom?
But if they're looking for like what's the best plastic-free underwear brand, and it can bring up 3 or 4, I think that lends itself really well to chat. But I'm not convinced necessarily that every business will see the same. Like, while it's a rising tide in terms of AI just in general, I think that specific part of it, I'm not convinced everyone will see the same benefit.
I think there's a really interesting stat. Most brands are seeing a 700% increase in visibility for LLMs year on year. So that's very significant, right? And Sam, you were saying it's still like, it's increasing year on year, but it still is relatively a small channel. I think it would be unwise not to be mindful of that year on year increase. And it's my opinion that over time, consumers will adopt more. They will be using the shopping feature. And we haven't really spoken about it yet, but agentic or agent shopping, so on behalf of the user actually using a bot to purchase. There is a lot of consideration around how you actually develop that AEO, GEO, or general just SEO visibility in these platforms. And Dan, like you said, like there are certain use cases where people are probably going to adopt it a bit more and be more confident in it. Particularly around subscription goods, toilet paper. The confidence to buy toilet paper is pretty easy. For women who are shopping, I'm probably not going to let a bot or ChatGPT pick out a pair of pants for me because I'm very particular. I have a very certain cut and I want the pants to be a certain way. And so there is a bit more friction. There's probably a larger timeline in terms of adoption, but it'll increasingly get easier and easier for users. And I think it's time now to really start considering an AEO optimization strategy, which is fundamentally a really good SEO strategy.
I might just quickly add to Dan's point. I think one tactical thing, it might seem really basic, people have already done it, but just from an attribution point of view, if you've got how'd you find out about us, make sure you've got, a LLM or a section on there which talks to that. And then I would just go and make sure you're asking your customers directly as well. Like what I try and tell a team, like if someone has come via that channel, let's find out what they've searched for. We might see a trend there in terms of the type of content they're searching for and how we're showing up, because the visibility of, you can kind of see someone's come via whatever channel they have, but actually knowing what they search, I think that's where the kind of gold is, and you might be able to take that into, the next creative you kind of create, or, articles online. But I think trying to find that detail is really important.
And that's the thing that can apply in a physical retail space too. It's your head of retail, we're rolling out new training for the teams to say, great, when someone comes in and you say, what are you here for today? What prompted you to come in? It might be, I was looking something up and, they said that you are this kind of brand and you have these sorts of products, and educating the team in how they can use that as well. Talking to team and business structures, what have you had to put in place internally now that you are rolling these sorts of things out?
So we brought on an AI visibility tracking tool, particularly to understand and quantify our measure in ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini. Because we are doing these works to improve our visibility, we need a platform that actually measures that. And so we brought on Profound, which are the leaders in AI visibility tracking. So that's one thing that we've changed, is actually how do we measure our AI visibility. And to Sam's point, we've also included GA4 tracking, so we have referral data to know if ChatGPT is serving us and if people are actually clicking and following through, because it is important to understand that. And just being a bit more mindful of the change in user behavior in terms of what they're actually prompting and how they're finding our site.
I think most of our changes have actually been procedural with the team. So our digital designers, who are very much creative and visual people, what part of their workload can we streamline via AI without them feeling demotivated that a portion of their work has been sped up? Our performance marketing team, the vast majority of our, we call it our integrated merch marketing calendar, and it's where we line up our product launches with our trade plan. We used to spend hours building out all of our problem solution ads for the month, and we'd look through product reviews and post-purchase reviews and off-platform stuff. We now just use Claude to scrape all of that, read all of our post-purchase surveys, and it just generates our monthly IMM plan in 5 minutes. And so that used to be a good week of work for us, and now it spits out ad copy, headlines, content type suggestions. So I think the main thing for me is definitely how is the team changing? And it's definitely not a case of, now you've saved that time, we don't need you. It's a case of now you've saved that time, can we invest that in getting more of the right content or more of the right ads, as opposed to we're just going to save that money and let go of that person. So AI is definitely affecting us at the moment more from a team and process perspective than thinking about it from a customer's perspective, which I know might not be right, but for the moment it's making sure your team's set up for success with it.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I think from thinking about putting ourselves in our customers' shoes and thinking about what they are looking at, which are a lot of people sitting in this room, it's the main user of Cuttable is a marketing manager or a designer who it's been really interesting to see their journey of they're having to do before, they're having to do all of the resizes, then they're having to write all the copy, and then they're having to do all the tedious stuff of uploading to Ads Manager. And it's you can give your team the tools to be able to kind of get back to what they actually can do their job properly. Like a designer, is it the best use of their time to do all of the tedious stuff, or can they be pushing the brand forward, making it more distinctive, making it more fun? And then same from a marketing manager point of view, you think about their roles. They've kind of become a little bit robotic in the past few years, is that the kind of amount of content they have to do has just exploded. But you think about what a marketing manager can really do once they're out of that detail. I think that's the exciting part, is that it kind of frees them up to do more of the creative work. Yeah.
I love it. Destiny, any thoughts?
So it's AI visibility, but again, workflow efficiencies. Yeah, we use Claude as well, mainly to automate manual tasks that we've been doing. So as my role as head of SEO, there's a lot of manual things like redirect mapping and anything that has a logical next step, or if you're repeatedly doing it, you can really easily automate, which makes workflow efficiency really great. And it does open up other people to take on more projects or go deeper into other campaigns. So it is worth doing. So if you don't have Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or some LLM, it is worth seeing what you can automate and make more efficient in your workflows.
Well, let's talk to that. From a technical standpoint, if someone was starting their journey today, like where do they begin? What are the basics they need to get right before they have this phenomenal beast running all these things, scraping everything? How do they get there?
I mean, I would always work backwards from just the strategic initiatives from the business and figure out which ones you can do cheaper, faster, or sooner. And I think every software tool we use is going to use AI somehow and get better. So I think like just attacking AI as an AI strategy is dangerous. I think it still needs to be, we've got to sell product to our customers. How do we do that better? So, we've just finished our kind of FY27 planning, and we know of the 20 things we want to get done, 10 of them will be significantly better if we figure out how to do it better with AI. So I think approaching it from that perspective is what's making it really tangible for us. It's definitely, anyone that was a Google Sheets nerd like me, I think they're finding it easy because, to your point, it's like just anything that is repetitive and logical next step. So I think we've just found starting really simple is the best way to do it. Like that weekly report that you used to do, teach AI to do it for you. Or pulling data from ads account. Maybe just try and use Manus instead. So it's definitely a case of just he with the best prompts is going to win. And I think that's kind of how we're looking at it at the moment. I don't know if that really answered the question, but working backwards from strategic initiatives is the most logical way, I think.
I love hearing you say that it's not just AI for AI's sake, because it's sort of this thing that you think, oh God, I've got to adopt it. And especially in this space, we are so ahead of so many other industries and areas of the economy because of what we do and because we are so chronically online. So to have that kind of context around it and think, no, this is okay, I need to make these decisions because at the end of the day, it is customer. To me, obviously, I specialize in CX and service, so that's what I meant when I said I know fuck all about this. But to me, that's really refreshing because, you hear all these technical things and you think, oh my God, I should be doing that in my business, but how am I doing that? Or how am I encouraging my clients to go find a partner that does it in the right way?
And we only got to that point because I made some mistakes. So I'm erratic at times in that if I have an idea, I will just go after it. And so giving someone like me the opportunity to just create content and push it to Meta is dangerous because what I accidentally did was create a whole lot of ads of an AI-generated model wearing our product.
Do it, Dan, do it. Do it.
And it did not land well with some of our customers. And I didn't even intend to send it live. So one of the things that I think is very true is starting with your guardrails and your tolerance and understanding for your brand where you're willing to use AI. For us now, I'm very clear that it's not to generate on-model imagery. We want to keep that as we're a business for real bodies, real people. So if all of a sudden we're flooding our feed with fakies, that's not going to be great. So I think we learnt the hard way. So anyone that hasn't really started their AI adventure yet, my hot tip would be start with the mistakes you're not willing to make and get them really clear across the business. Because some of those mistakes can be really costly. Like our customer service team lit up like a Christmas tree when I sent those ads live. So
of course they did.
I have a couple of hot tips as well in terms of like starting an AI journey. So having a really strong foundation of your data and knowing what your data is really important because if you're going to get Claude or ChatGPT or any of these LLMs to run dashboards or weekly reports, and you don't fact check or you don't have the correct data, it's going to either hallucinate or it's going to give you the wrong data, and then you're going to make decisions on things that aren't real or aren't true or are just not going to land properly. So it's really important to have that good input technically from your data to make sure that you can get something out of it. And secondly, making sure that your website is optimized for LLMs and for these bots to actually understand your brand and your creatives and your overall, like, where you want to go in the future.
I'd probably lean into the angle on around the AI creation side of things. I think there's kind of three things. One is you need to have a really strong brand voice before you start to use any type of AI tool. It doesn't matter if it's what we do or if it's putting it into Claude to write some copy for you. But if you have a weak or a poor brand voice, the reality is AI is going to amplify that. Yes, it can extend and kind of help you see different variations and that type of thing. But it will amplify what's already there. And it's a similar thing from a distinctiveness point of view, like around how your brand looks and feels. I think, if your brand doesn't stand out, kind of leaning on a model or leaning on something to kind of rectify that, I think it's you've got to start with what works currently for your brand and how it's distinctive. I think is really important. And then the third, I think from a creation point of view, is like a lot of people think, like Dan was talking about, you kind of go to, we were talking on a panel before and we were showing this video of like someone jumping out of a plane and then they land and they walk in to sell a house. It's like an AI trend at the moment. But the reality is so many brands are sitting on like a gold mine of existing images and videos just buried in hard drives, buried in Google Drives. So I would really look at like starting with what you already have before you go to create complete net new as well. I think that's an important thing.
Now that we have all these incredible things, we've changed all these things, they're working, we've made some mistakes along the way, but they're working. How are you measuring success? That might look different now.
For us, it's really primarily from an SEO perspective. We maintain our generic brand visibility across Google, which is our primary platform. So still maintaining a really good SEO campaign, but also measuring success for AI visibility. So that's looking at brand mentions, it's using an AI visibility tracking tool to look at our share of voice. It's looking at our GA4 data. But as head of SEO, I'm also measuring success in terms of workflow efficiency. So how much time are we actually saving by using Claude to create our content briefs or to use redict mapping? If we can save 10 hours a week, that's success to me. Yeah. And if we can further optimize to save 15, 20 a whole week, then fantastic. And then that's, to me, is what success looks like.
I would say the thing I've most enjoyed about it so far is seeing more junior members of the team get access to performance and business information faster. So a lot of the time you wait till your Monday or Tuesday trade meeting, you go through this deck, you all high five, and then you walk out of the room and you do half of what you said you were going to do because the plan's already in play. But seeing like a junior designer have access to a tool that can tell them what ad that they created is performing really well and why, I think it's helping us nurture a broader performance focus across roles that traditionally aren't performance-minded. So I think success for me is, can the broader team access information faster and then make decisions off it? And then that just speeds up the creative flywheel. So we're not going to use it for all content creation, but for the parts that we will, if we get to that learning faster and then we're prompting it faster, then that flywheel moving faster is the key success measure, I would say.
What's the team's feedback been around, these projects that you've led in the team to roll these out and, the employment satisfaction of, hey, I can get this done and look at the results of the ad? Not
great. I have definitely had a few people tap HR on the shoulder and say, look, we think the initial approach is disruptive. Yep. So I've had a few learnings myself on maybe how to not roll it out and how to roll it out. And I think I haven't actually had HR complaints, but important to note. But I think it's just important that we move slowly and that we get bottom-up feedback at every step.
Yeah, great. Sam, you're obviously talking to brands every day that are, I want to do this, I'm not sure. Yeah.
You have to remind me of the question again. I was too focused on Dan's HR complaint, but...
It's the team's response and for yourself, your clients to, this is a possibility. How can I do this? It's like we've rolled it out.
I should add to that, like it's natural to be nervous, right? Like if you're hearing about this thing that can do things better than you and faster, I understand, especially why more junior staff might be nervous about it, but I think something as simple as working into their KPIs or their position description, expectations around tool usage or things that they can be responsible for uncovering in the business through use of a tool, it just gets them more involved in the output, as where I think it is natural for everyone at the moment to think, I'm not going to get a job. Like, where is an email designer going to be in 10 years' time? Like, I genuinely don't know if they will exist. Like, but if you're a digital designer who's great at prompting, then you're probably going to be worth 10 times as much to a business than you were when you were just designing emails. So I think the size of the opportunity is there if people view it the right way, but you've got to work with them slowly to help them see that you can't do what I did and just start pushing.
Launch the ads.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm building that with Dan. I think like buy-in from the team is really important. Often, a lot of the brands that we work with, the first interaction we have with any type of brand is usually with either the founder or someone in Dan's role, and they're kind of really excited about the potential. All of a sudden I can go from 3 weeks for a campaign to a day live. But then your second meetings with the team, the marketing manager, the designer, and they're just the first thing they're just stonewall, because they're just like, it's another thing, it's another tool, it's another platform that's been handed down from
Another
leadership.
project.
Yeah, another project, and they don't look at it as they don't look at it as cost saving, or they don't look at it as a addition to their job. They look at it as more work. And so I think the thing that we've learned over our short journey is that like we want to talk with the people on the tools from the start to make sure that they are keen and invested as well, because I think when both sides lean in, it works really well. But when it's kind of just top down handed to a team, it often it doesn't get embedded, and teams lose money, they lose time. So I think that's a big one.
Yeah, we launched a little challenge about a month ago where we split up all of the individual functions. So digital, customer service, product design, digital design, and basically said, find a problem you have and then look at some AI tools that could fix it. And then we got the whole business together, everyone presented, and then we had a bit of a team bonding event. And the examples that came out of it were really genuine. So our wholesale business, we have to sell product into the US before we've had the finished production sample. So we generated the entire catalogue from CADs, put it on model, but chopped their heads off. Not literally, God, that sounds terrible.
Another HR complaint.
I'm back in HR now. And so this process that used to be really painful for the business around trying to sell product into the US without imagery is now completely solved. Or the creative designers who try and sell this grand vision to our CEOs of an upcoming shoot can now exactly generate the images that align with their creative vision. So then when they're trying to bring non-creative people on the journey with them, that's much easier. As where previously I'd sit in the boardroom and I'd see my head of creative try and sell our CEO, and he just had no idea what she was talking about. But now that brief is like literally of models in our product in situ where she's wanting to do the shoot. So it's not removed the ability from her to do that shoot. It's just sped up the process and made it easier for her to sell it internally. So genuine contextual benefits early on in the AI process is important.
Yeah, I think you guys both touch on something that's really important, which is like buy-in and education and motivation, right? Because me last year, I would have used Claude or ChatGPT a year ago, and it didn't really give me the output that I wanted, or I had to spend hours trying to train it in order to get the output that I wanted. And that can be really disheartening and really dismotivating if you don't have the proper education to be able to prompt to get the output and get the efficiency that you want. So I think giving people exercises to try it is super important, and then build their confidence, and even frameworks for prompting, because prompt engineering is a science and an art in itself. And if you can give people a framework on how to prompt properly and get the outputs they want quicker, they're going to adapt it, they're going to try it more, and it'll be easier to roll out and ideate what other workflows they can use it for.
I love that you've both talked about carving out time that's separate to BAU. It's like a project, it's another thing to add to that, plus the trade meeting, plus the trade calendar. So it's really nice to have you have that space. I want to change talk tracks just a tiny little bit, and I want to talk about the role of creators. We talked about this in our pre-session, and we were saying how dramatically that's changed. Obviously, that sort of like digital PR, organic virality, they're treated as those sort of brand awareness plays and those big moments. Do they connect back into this AI visibility? Talk to me about this.
Yeah, so digital PR is influential for LLMs. Effectively, the way that LLMs work is they work off training data and retrieval. So think of it like a big cloud. If there's a lot of information in the cloud that says Princess Polly is the best Gen Z fashion retailer, they always have the hottest clothes, and multiple publications are saying that, LLMs are going to retrieve that and they're going to serve it and they're going to associate Princess Polly as the hottest brand, which we are. So,
Heard it here first.
yeah. So it is important to have a digital PR presence, and equally, brand mentions and virality are also impactful. So not just on the publication side, but if you're getting mentioned and everyone's doing Princess Polly YouTube hauls or Princess Polly posting on Pinterest and it gets mentioned heaps, that is, you're giving the LLMs undeniable information that you are associated and that you should be surfaced for those queries that relate to fashion, dresses, women's clothing.
We, like specifically in the creator space, I would say it's not really changed much for us because we're not at a point where we would work with a digital, like a AI creator. But what we have done is we've significantly diversified our non-model imagery through AI. So I don't know all the businesses in the room, but we find like flat lay and non-model photography very successful in ads. And, you know, we're a core business. We've got maybe 30 styles that drive 90% of our revenue. So coming up with as many flat lay versions of those products quickly based on wins in ads is something that can actually have a really meaningful impact on our ads account. So I'd say from a creative perspective, we're thinking of the in-house team and the design team as now time that we're saving them, they're now able to reinvest that time in generating assets that they previously would have had to wait for the social media team to create. So I think it's we're still generating the same amount of genuine creator content through influencer partnerships, but we're just pouring in a lot more quick turnaround content. And it definitely seems to be the push that Meta's going in. You're going to know a lot more about this than me. But at a conference the other day, it was very clear that they want to get to a point where they can ultimately create the content for you and then launch it for you based on what's working. So they're almost trying to, I think, take agency out of play and drive as much of the content creation as well, budget management, everything. So I think it's really important that we understand that in the lead up to them being, you know, the dominant force in that place.
They're going to acquire you, Sam.
No, I don't know. Everyone always asks that, but I'm not too... Like, we work really close with Meta. We were up at Meta Sydney last week talking to 200 brands about what we're doing, and I even laughed with the team this week because you know, anyone who's setting up ads in Ads Manager, you've got to turn off all of the Creative Advantage Plus, you know, toggles, because I saw one of our own ads actually, and it added like this just off-brand text up the top, 1, you know, 3. So like they got a long way to go, and I think it's going to be a really exciting space when they do get there from an SMB point of view. But in terms of like brand control, kind of coming back to your question about creators, and also Dan from like and like what is the future of, is AI UGC going to be a real thing? I think there's two main things. One is, how do you make your existing creator content go further? You know, like how do you, again, I keep talking about like reuse that stuff. I think a lot of brands, you know, pay a lot from a creative point of view to get people, you know, wearing their brand. So how do you make sure you can, you know, use it in other ads, other formats, you know, bottom of the funnel ads as well? And then what we're finding, we actually launched today, woo, go crazy. We launched today the fact that you can now, you know, within Cuttable, you can go from a Shopify product, it pulls through, and you can actually create a character that's on brand, have someone holding, wearing your product, that type of thing. But I think we're going to be a bit away from like a customer or a consumer being really comfortable with someone, you know, an AI creator talking to camera. What we're seeing a lot of brands already using is like real person talking to camera and then cutting footage up that might be in situations that they could never have shot before, you know, over the top. And it's the mix of real life and kind of AI content coming together. I think for me, that's where the sweet spot is, at least in, you know, the next 6 to 12 months. But you look at some of our US customers are like, they're just full-blown AI. Like they're not using any, you know, real life content anymore. So it really depends on the appetite of the business as well, and the stage they're at. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
Amazing. We're just about out of time. So one super quick last thing. Obviously, it's changing so fast. What are you each individually doing? One thing to stay ahead and make sure you stay at front of the game.
To be honest, I think the biggest thing is just finding someone who's, it's an overwhelming space. I think finding someone who's passionate about it and learning off them as well, I think is really key. I would kind of ignore a lot of the new news that comes out, and I would just think about focusing on one thing and getting really good at that in an AI space. I wouldn't try to be, focusing on trying to master 10 different platforms and 10 different tools at once. I'd go deep on one, and then, I think that should take care of itself.
Yeah, I think staying hands-on, really. Just playing with platforms, seeing which platform actually applies best to your workflows, because all of them are very different. Claude might be good for one thing, Gemini is good for another, ChatGPT something else. And there's always new things that are coming out. So subscribing to people that you enjoy, that you respect and that you validate is really great. But then also, actually trying it for yourself and figuring out what works is probably the best way to stay on top of everything.
Don't sign any annual contracts. The speed at which it's changing is just uncomfortable. So I think every tool that we all already work with, I know I said this before, but he's getting better at AI. And we've made a few mistakes where we jumped to something that we thought was great. And then 2 months later, the person that we were with previously that we jumped from, all of a sudden they were better again. So I think it's just move slowly. Don't make any big swings just on the basis of a software provider having a AI element in their business. Stay month to month with any new tools until you're confident. It's really great.
Thank you so much. Please thank our panelists.